In today's video, we continue on with our NHL offseason plan series. Today, we look at the 23rd ranked team from the NHL's regular season, the New York Islanders, a team that's been stuck in mediocrity for a number of years, seems poised for some real change this offseason. We're going to take a look at what we should expect from them between the draft, free agency, trades, and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're taking a look at the New York Islanders in our NHL offseason plan series and explore what we feel they're going to be expected to do. We're going to first recap last year's results, take a look at the 24-25 standings, take a look at some key metrics, how things have changed over the past few years, analyze their cap space, who have been the top players, what changes are we expected to see internally, who are their restricted free agents, unrestricted, any extensions we could see, then the top questions facing the franchise this offseason. What are they going to do with the 2025 draft? What should we expect from them in free agency, trades, etc.? So let's dive in and get started. First up, as I mentioned, let's recap last year as we look forward to what they're going to be doing here. Last year, they finished with a record of 35-12, 82 points, so basically 500 hockey. Not good enough to get into the playoffs. The New York Islanders have been a team over the last 6-7 years have been kind of maybe early on, right after the departure of former captain John Tavares, they seem to kind of take off and have a few good years. They have real good success. Look like they could be a team that might challenge for the Cup, made it to the conference finals. But then, the last few years have been a team that's been kind of stuck with the same veterans. I think that team kind of maxed out what it was capable of. And, obviously it was a team that is now in need of some dire change. So we'll see what happens. Last year, they scored 222 goals, which is not nearly enough, 27th best, while giving up 257. So that's certainly not a great number. For example, the year before, the Islanders had scored 246 goals, so that's down by 24. The goals against was down, actually. They went from 263 down to 257, so that was actually a small improvement. The power play and penalty kill were some of the worst we've seen in the NHL. The power play was only 12.6%, whereas the PK was at 72.2%, both ranked 31st overall. Now, having Matthew Barzal miss a large chunk of the season with injuries certainly did not help, especially on the power play. Looking at their goaltenders, Ilya Sorokin didn't have a fantastic season. Finished with a record of 30, 24, and 6 with a 2.71 goals against and a 907 save percentage. That's certainly not all on him. Goaltending stats are really more of a team result than they are individual, but Sorokin still is a very talented goaltender signed to a long-term deal, and you can still make an argument as one of the better goalies in the NHL. Semyon Varlamov didn't get a chance to play a lot of hockey this year, missed a lot of time. Certainly a lot of question marks about his future as well. Has only had a record of 3-4-3 with a 289 goals against and an 889 save percentage. And Marcus Högberg, who came back from Europe after a brief stint in the NHL before with the Ottawa Senators, got a chance to play a bit with the absence of Varlamov and posted a record of 2-6-3 with a 3.38 and an 878 save percentage. So outside of Sorokin, not a whole lot of hope between the pipes this past year. The leading scorers ended up being Bo Horvat with 57 points, Captain Anders Lee with 54, Kyle Palmieri at 48, Holmstrom at 45. Matthew Barzal, of course, only played 30 games, put up 20 points, actually was having a decent year, but he missed a ton of time here with a pretty serious injury. Of course, towards the end of the season, we saw at the deadline, they finally started to make some change by trading long-time centerman Brock Nelson, and then we found out after the season ended that the services of Lou Lamoriello were not going to be retained. It appears his contract was set to expire, and they are going in a new direction. I know the fan base has been clamoring for change for this team for the past couple of years to get it stuck out of that mediocre range, and really a lot of people wanted to see change behind the front office as well with the departure of Lou Lamoriello, which they're finally getting. I think we need to acknowledge and respect what Lou was able to do. When Lou came in, it was a difficult time. Lou came in when the summer of John Tavares' departure. The roster was looked upon as being mediocre at best at that point, and even then with the Tavares departure, a lot of people thought they were going to really sink down in the standings, and they did not. He brought back a lot of things to the organization that it was lacking, including some class, respectability, about how they treat their people. A lot of good things that you don't always see off the ice as well. Just things like that that were important, just to be a more well-respected, classy organization. But all things run its course. And as much as Lou did some good things and got them through some difficult times, it's time for a new regime to come in and try to get this team back on track. Looking ahead to this offseason, they have $28.3 million in cap space available, but they do have 14 contracts already on the book. So 14 of the 23 roster spots are already basically spoken for. It means out of that $28 million, you're going to be looking to sign about 9 players. So when you break it down on a per-player basis, that's really not a ton of money, even though it does sound like it. We're going to now take a look at their internal business first, which will be their expiring contracts. So who are the restricted and unrestricted free agents, and discuss who might be getting deals here. On the RFA side, they do have some key players, including Noah Dobson. Dobson's contract could be one of the bigger ones that they have to do this year and will be a big decision for the team. They also have Alex Romanov, newly acquired defenseman Scott Perunovich and Adam Boqvist, as well as Max Siplikov, Simon Holmstrom, and Mark Gatcomb. So I think there's a good chance that a decent amount of those guys return. They may not all be back, but the Dobson contract by far and away is the biggest one that they have to make a decision on, and it will probably be the most expensive here. On the UFA side, we have Kyle Palmieri, Matt Martin, Mike Riley, and Tony DeAngelo. I think it's fair to say Martin's likely retiring. I don't think Riley's coming back. I know Palmieri was reportedly discussing a new contract with Lou before we found out that Lou wasn't going to be back as the GM, so I'm not sure where things stand in that regard, or if the next general manager will feel any differently about his services. But there was belief that he would be interested in signing. I'm not sure what the term would be. I'm guessing probably 2 or 3 year extension, but don't know where that stands. Tony DeAngelo came in late in the season and certainly kind of filled a hole and actually did pretty well. So again, another guy who might be back, but it's hard to say with certainty. As far as players that are eligible for contract extensions, there's not much. Captain Anders Lee is right up there. Jean-Gabriel Pageau and Marcus Hogberg. So we could see deals for those guys, although I think it's probably unlikely that we see extensions for any of them, to be completely honest. I think there's going to be a lot of scrutiny around some of these veteran players and whether or not they have long-term roles with the organization. So more than anything, I think the biggest thing is this RFA group and determining who gets what out of that, with the Noah Dobson contract being the most lucrative and the biggest, one of the bigger decisions they make this offseason. Now, as I mentioned, what are the other top questions facing this franchise this offseason? Well, the biggest one is, who's the GM going to be? We don't even know that. It appears to be down to a couple of guys, including Marc Bergevin and Matthew Darche. Of course, Bergevin most recently worked with the Los Angeles Kings as an advisor, longtime GM of the Montreal Canadiens, and did have a decent amount of success there. Matthew Darche, a lot of success on his resume as an assistant GM with the Lightning, has been up for a number of GM jobs in the past couple of years. It's just a matter of time before he gets his opportunity. There is some speculation that they're waiting to see as well if Brendan Shanahan, the president of the Maple Leafs, will be let go, to see if he'll be available. I don't know. He wouldn't be a GM for them, but it is possible that they might want to talk to him about a different executive role, whether it be president or a VP or something along those lines. No guarantee that they'd even talk to him at all. There are some that think that they are kind of waiting to see what happens there. Time will tell, of course. But the GM, to me, Darche and Bergevin are both decent candidates. I would like to personally see them go with Darche. I just think he's a real up-and-coming guy. He seems to be very talented, very bright, and he's got to learn a lot from a real successful organization in Tampa, who's done a lot of good things and obviously had a lot of success. Not to say that Bergevin hasn't, but I just like to see some of these up-and-coming guys get an opportunity. I wouldn't be completely shocked if they considered Bergevin in another role, whether maybe both of them come on board as president and GM. I don't know, but those are your candidates and who it's nailed down to. Of course, and as far as the coaching staff goes, we won't know about the coaching staff until we have a executive team in place. But Patrick Roy signed a 5-year contract. So personally, I don't know if ownership is going to be real crazy about him leaving after one season. So I think the coaching staff and Patrick Roy most likely are coming back, and I think they will be given more time and a little more rope here to work with a hopefully revamped roster to see what they can do before they have their jobs really evaluated. Of course, we know the New York Islanders had a lot of luck at the draft lottery and are picking first overall the 2025 NHL Draft. So obviously deciding who they're going to pick there is a big decision as well. A lot of scouting services rank Matthew Schaefer, the top defenseman from the OHL, as the top prospect in this draft. Could be, a comparable, similar type of impact player that you see with Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes. That would be, massive for the Islanders to get a player like that. At the same time, there might be some pressure and some thought about taking the local product, and James Haggins, of course, grew up a massive Islanders fan, one of the top prospects as well. Right now, most scouting services have him going probably around the number 3 mark. So, big decision there. I don't know if they can really go wrong. Haggins does look like a really good player. Could be a number 1 center, or at the very least a number 2 center. But right now, Schaefer's projection does appear to be a little bit higher, but it really boils down to who you trust on their opinion on that front. But it's a massive decision, and they get some real fortunate luck. So either way, no matter what they do, they should be getting a really good player to go into a revamped prospect pool that they've been able to add to here a little bit lately. I wonder if there's a possibility we could see Cal Ritchie join this club next year, who they picked up from the Colorado Avalanche in that Brock Nelson trade. He is a real solid player. Looks like a lot of people have him pegged to be, don't want to give too high of an expectation, but a Patrice Bergeron type. So not to say he's going to be at that level, but a solid two-way centerman that plays a similar style of game to Bergeron. Again, doesn't mean he's going to be that good. Don't come at me if he's not. But at the same time, it's just another player they can add to the mix here. You throw in Cole Yzerman, who they got in the 24 draft. You get a player here coming up first overall in 25. Suddenly you've got maybe like 3 really good players that can jump into your lineup here over the next 1 or 2 years, and that can make a big difference on the trajectory of this team. So like I said, another big question is, does Palmieri re-sign or not? Most people thought it was a slam dunk given, but now with Lou not being in charge, it's not a given. So his future is certainly in question. A couple of contracts that could be moved or maybe traded or maybe buyouts, but I think the main buyout candidate is Pierre Engvall. The only problem with Engvall is it's such a long-term deal. It's not a big money deal, but it's long-term. So, you're having an implication on that roster and the cap for a long time. But I think they will try to do what they can to get rid of this Engvall contract. But other players that I think, as far as the trade market goes, that I think you're going to see be dangled out there would be Scott Mayfield. There's been a lot of talk about him. We're down to the final year of Jean-Gabriel Pageau. I think there's a good chance they try to move Pageau. We saw the struggles of Anthony Duclair last year. I do wonder if they will try to find a fresh start for Duclair. He left the team towards the end of the year, took a leave of absence. I'm not sure where things stand with Duclair and what the future holds there, but I wonder if maybe going to another club and getting another start might be in order for him. It's kind of hard to say. So, I think we could definitely see some trades. Could they do something bigger? We've heard there could be interest in players like Anders Lee, or, even I don't know that they want to trade Barzal, but I know that there'd be a lot of teams that would love to talk about him because he's a great player. We've heard a little bit about Bo Horvat. Again, those are all some of your top players. I'm not sure we're going to see a lot of movement in that front. It's probably going to be more here. Your supporting players, like I already mentioned, your Pageaus, your Duclairs, your Mayfields, your Engvalls. We don't know if Palmieri's coming back now. So obviously there's going to be some movement on this roster, and it's going to hopefully have some good positive effects on it. As far as free agency goes, I don't know that we're going to see a lot of the New York Islanders in free agency. I think by the time they look after a lot of their internal business, that they're not going to have that much space. Maybe. I do wonder if a player like Mitch Marner hits free agency, would they make a play for that? There's going to be a lot of teams probably want to talk to Marner. It's going to depend, I think, on who the new GM is and what they think, of course. But, there's an opportunity that there could be a real good player like that available. I know I've seen some people mention about a reunion with John Tavares, and because he's going to be a free agent as well. I think his first choice is to stay in Toronto, and I don't see the organization making a play to bring him back at age 35. I don't know that really makes any sense for them either. So we'll see what happens. But either way, the good news is that it should be a new regime. We should see lots of activity. We're going to see some new injection of youth. You're probably not going to see a lot in free agency, and you're going to see definitely at least a handful of trades to shake things up. And then, like I said, some of the internal business they need to take care of and make decisions on. Is Noah Dobson getting a long-term deal? Would they consider trading him? I don't really think they would. He's a tough player to replace, especially if you can add a guy like Schaefer. Then you have a Schaefer-Dobson combo at the top of your decor for the next number of years. That sounds pretty good to me, but we'll see what happens. Either way, the Islanders should be in good hands and hopefully on the upswing by the end of the offseason. Let me know your thoughts and expectations for the Islanders in the summertime. We'll talk about it further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.